I'm Joe.
And I'm Ryan, and welcome to the Budget Bros podcast. We've set out to make something different. Our goal is to reinvent the meaning of the word budget and to help you achieve a quality life without feeling like you're really giving anything up.
We share our mindset, give you the tips, tricks, and techniques that we use ourselves. We do the legwork and give you the very best of everything we find. Get ready. The podcast starts right now. Oh, sorry, Ryan. I'm getting a page here.
You're either a doctor or...
I don't even know if you can still get a pager or not, but that's the sound of my pager from probably 2000.
I had a pager in like 96, 97, somewhere in there.
Nice.
I begged my parents for it. Every other cool kid in school was getting pages, throughout third and fourth period. And who's actually paging them? Probably they're like asking their mom before they go to school, hey, page me at like 11:15, okay? So I look really awesome in class. So they would get these pages. And of course, I wanted to definitely put that pager on my belt to show that I was part of the Cool Kids Club.
I brought up pagers because today is all about cell phones. We are talking ways to save money on cell phones. And it's kind of amazing because I personally was with Verizon for so long. And really until Ryan and I started talking about different cell phone service beyond the top three carriers, which is Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, which is also owns Sprint now. I didn't really realize just how much money you could save every month. So we're going to talk about that. And make sure you stay tuned to the very end of this episode because we have a very special money-saving tip of the week. First, let's talk about the history of cell phones and communication, really. I mean, do you remember your first cell phone?
Vaguely. I remember I didn't have that large gray brick that you saw Zach Morris pull out of the locker and Saved by the Bell. It was like
the 1974
first
4.5-pound cell phone?
Yeah, you definitely did your research for this episode. But no, I didn't have that one, but I think it was in like 97, 98. I got a pretty hefty little mini brick phone. I think I had 100 minutes per month. There was no text messaging. That was my first cell phone.
My first one, I remember I was actually at work. I had just turned 18 and I'd moved out of the house. I had had a pager actually for years. But then I remember I was at work working late and somebody called and they said, hey, we're selling cell phone service. And I'm like, oh, I don't have one. And he goes, hey, I'll get you a cell phone. Which one do you want? And all this. He set me up for a plan and all this stuff. That's how I got my first cell phone. And I remember it was the worst experience ever. I would look at my bill and I would freak out. And then I'd call them. And then I would, explain, hey, I didn't use all these minutes. I don't know what all this is. Oh, okay. And we'll reduce it. I had to do that every single month. I think it made me really bitter on cell phone plans for a long time. And so that's why I always wanted to go to one of the big three carriers because I didn't want to have that same situation happen to me again.
I came home from high school one day, and there's this lady at our house that my mom had called. She would go come to your house and explain how the cell phone worked, which plan you chose. She was like in her living room selling us this cell phone plan.
It's like selling Tupperware.
Yeah, pretty much.
Knives.
And yeah, we bought our first cell phone plan from a lady in our living room. But that was the thing back then is you only had a certain amount of minutes per month. But the little trick that they would give you to rope you in was saying you got the first incoming minute for free. Or or was it just the first minute for free? I can't remember. I'm a little vague on that. But I do remember friends calling me and saying, I'm going to call you back in 1 minute. I'm almost out of cell phone service. Call me back.
That was like when you used to get collect calls. It'd be like, okay, what's your name? And it'd be like, there was a commercial, hey, it's Bob, it's a boy.
Yeah. Hey, this is Ryan. I'll be home late, Mom.
What was really cool in the beginning was like one of the best features you could get would get like a cool ringtone. Remember your first cool ringtone?
I remember that the minute you bought a new cell phone, you went directly to the ringtones and were hoping that you would get the super cool one. And then later on, then you could purchase the ringtones individually. And now, I mean, I was just talking about that not too long ago. Whenever you're in a public place, the phone rings. Everybody picks up their phone because now nobody cares. They just leave it on the
Right.
whatever ringtone is, whatever
Right.
comes with the
Yeah,
phone.
it used to be cool. It used to be like they'd take like a song and they'd like digitize it and it'd be like Mr. Jones and me. Anyways,
Yeah, no. Can
but
you give us like maybe 5 or 6 more songs?
yeah, that'd be good. It was probably something from Nickelback.
So
So then it went from having cool ringtones, okay, to text messages. That's when things got really hip.
do you remember? Was it called a two-way, and all it did was send text messages? I remember vaguely a coworker. She was dating a guy in New York who sent her this special device just to send text messages. It wasn't even a cell phone. It was just sending text back and forth. Do you remember that, or did that
I don't
technology pass
remember
you by?
that, but I remember I had a Nokia phone, and I thought it was so cool that you could write words and send text messages, and they used to charge. Well, I think it was like 10 or 15 cents each text message. It's now we don't think of that as being a thing at all, but you used to write the message and you'd be like hitting the buttons, like it was basically like typing times 3 because you had to hit every button multiple times, and like 0 was spaced or twice or something like that. It was so much work, but we still did it because we didn't want to talk to people.
I was so excited when we took one of our anniversary trips up to Phoenix, and I found on Craigslist a guy that was selling his little slider phone, and the phone slid to a full keyboard for texting.
And you're like,
Yeah, I'm like,
mind
oh man,
blown.
I'm gonna be so fast at texting, because before that you were using the T9. You had to type out all of the numbers. Like, and I had this friend that could do it one hand. He was like a lightning texter. He would sit there in the living room while we're watching sports and just with his thumb like boom, 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 boom. Cell phones have really come a long way, haven't they?
I do remember. It's funny. I have a cabinet that is full of every single cell phone I've had since probably 2005.
Do you
every
really?
single cell phone.
Are you serious? You still have all of this
Yeah,
stuff in your house?
I still have them all because, I'm kind of a, how do I say this?
I believe the word is a hoarder.
I was going for something more romantic than that. I'm just.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You know how you have these text messages on your old phones, and you kind of want to save them. You kind of want to look back at them. That's why I've kept these old phones. But now you can, it's like there's so many text messages. It's like emails. You're not going to go back and look at emails from 20 years ago. Oh, look at this conversation I had. It just doesn't make sense technology-wise to hold on to those things. So it's best to try to sell them and just get them out of your house if you can.
And that's kind of sad in a lot of ways, because as soon as I bought a smartphone, the first smartphone, I thought, oh, this is the last phone I'm ever going to buy. And they can be quite an investment. And then you think about the smartphone, like I probably have 2 or 3 laying in my drawer here that are only a couple of years old, and it feels like they're super outdated already.
See, I'm not the only hoarder.
Yeah, but I don't have my original flip phone now. But yeah, talking about how important a cell phone is, that's a monthly expense that everybody's paying for. That when we were growing up, we didn't have cell phones. We had to remember everybody's phone number. There's probably still some phone numbers that you remember in your head.
Like if I was in an emergency and I had to call my mom, and I didn't have my cell phone with me, I don't know what I do.
Yeah, I finally memorized my wife's cell phone number just in case. But I mean, all the time I just click on my phone book and go right to it. Yeah, you don't need it.
Is that like when parents like used to teach their kids like the address song? Like 121 South 49th Street, 85779.
Pretty much. I remember all of my grandparents' phone numbers and our old house phone, which my dad finally just got rid of last year.
Imagine talking on a phone that is connected to a wall right now. Like that's so foreign to us now.
There's still some people who pay that phone bill. And you know what's really funny about that? Every time I've thought about signing up for a different internet provider for my home, they're always trying to sell me a home phone. They're always like, and if you bundle this with your home phone, I'm like, I'm sorry, man. Do you have a home phone? Like, I know it's your job to sell me this home phone, but no thanks.
As of 2018, it's amazing that 43% of people still have home phones. And there's only, what, 400 and something million people in the United States?
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that. Wow. So now that a cell phone is really a must.
You like
Yeah.
blaze over that.
Well, I was like, I don't even know what to do with that. Now that a cell phone is a must-have item, I don't know. How do you feel, Joe, when you leave the house without your cell phone, or you can't find your cell phone, or even when your cell phone gets to that like 10% battery marker?
I honestly can't. I feel like I can't even leave the room. Like I leave the room and I'm like, oh, where's my cell phone? In fact, this happened last night. I was on the couch. I went up and I went into the kitchen to get a drink, and I came back and I was like, where's my cell phone? And I was looking for like 10 minutes. I was going into rooms I didn't even go in that day looking for my cell phone. And I'm like, hey Siri, where are you? Hey Siri, where are you?
I'm over here.
Yeah, and that's her. She was hiding in the couch cushions.
Yeah, it's this weird panic sets in, like the 10% battery panic. I think many people have that feeling. Now, a cell phone is a huge part of your life, and I think that's why today's episode is so important. Most people can't really operate without their cell phone.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Ryan. Until we did this episode and I did all this research, I talked about earlier about how I always wanted to be with one of the top 3 carriers because I wanted to make sure that my cell phone worked. Because if anybody out there who's listening has experienced a drop call, or your internet stops working on your phone or something like that, it's really frustrating. You want it to work all the time, but things have changed. You can go basically beyond those top 3 providers and get really good cell phone service. And I think you're the one that really first told me about that, Ryan.
Yeah, and I have to actually give props to my wife on this one. She did quite a bit of research and came up with a great alternative to save money on her cell phone. I think the first time that I tried to save money on my cell phone bill was going to one of these prepaid carriers like Cricket, and I didn't have a great experience. I would drop calls like crazy. The internet seemed to never work. This episode definitely is not brought to you by Cricket. And please don't sue us.
We don't have any sponsors for our 25 listeners anyways.
It's okay. Hey, we do have one listener in Australia and one in Ireland. So
so if you're out there, send us an email, thebudgetbrospodcast@gmail.com, because we want to know who you are.
We're like, we get all of our statistics, and we get to see where people are listening from. Back to Cricket, I had such a bad experience that I didn't think I would ever want to switch from one of the main carriers again. She found this great deal, and we're saving a lot of money each year now on our cell phone bill.
Yeah, so there's actually 2 types of mobile networks. There's MNOs, which stands for Mobile Network Operators. Those are going to be your Verizons, your AT&Ts, your T-Mobiles, your Sprints. They basically are the ones that put up those towers and have their cell phone service go directly to them. But then there's something called MVNOs. Those are Mobile Virtual Network Operators, and they basically parlay off of these different carriers, and they sign contracts with them to get access to their data, to the minutes, and to text messages.
So on today's episode, we're going to focus on some of these MVNOs and why switching to one of these carriers might be a great way to save you money. Now, Joe, can you tell our listeners what else we're going to discuss in today's podcast?
Yeah, we're going to go over 3 different options for cell phones. Now, all of these are going to include data, talking minutes, and text messages. But first, we're going to talk about a super cheap plan. Then we're going to talk about the cheapest unlimited plans. And unlimited, we mean unlimited LTE data. And then we're going to talk about our recommendation overall. It's much less expensive than some of these unlimited plans. It's a little bit more expensive than these super cheap plans, but it's something good for just about anybody who's listening.
The average American's paying $70 per month for their cell phone bill. $840 plus a year. And a common trick that these cell phone companies use to rope you in is offer you a cheaper cell phone, but then you're stuck with that company for some time. Do they still do that?
Yeah, they do. In fact, I just signed up with T-Mobile about 8 months ago. And they, instead of having a contract, they now have an option where you trade in a phone and you get quote unquote $500 back. We bought an iPhone 11, and this $500 isn't just given as a credit to your cell phone. It's divided up over 24 months, and you're given a monthly credit, which basically keeps you with that provider or that carrier for those 24 months to make sure you get the full benefit.
Yeah. So what I learned several years back is that it's so much better to purchase your cell phone outright. Now, initially the cost might be a little more expensive, but you want to buy a unlocked phone. That means that it's not locked to any specific carrier. You can go to any of these prepaid carriers and use that phone. Now, there's this great company that you were telling me about called Swappa, Joe. Can you tell the listeners a little bit more about Swappa?
Yeah, and really, once you go from those, 3 or 4 major carriers down to some of these, what I'll call micro carriers, it really changes your mindset because we're so used to having to pay for our cell phones indefinitely. We always want the latest and greatest phones. And I totally get that because I want to have the phone with the best camera and the best features and all those things too. But if you just do this one thing, if you buy a cell phone that is one generation behind the latest generation, you will save so much money over the long haul, and you'll still have great features. The features that they're coming out with nowadays, they're minor. They're not these huge leaps like we used to get. So, for instance, instead of buying the iPhone 11, which I did, which just came out, if I could go back, I would buy the iPhone 10. I'd buy the earlier version, still has a lot of great features, and I needed it really for the camera and for some of the other features anyways for my business. But for most people, really just buy that one generation below phone. And you can go to swappa.com, and people are selling their phones, and you can buy them on this one website. For instance, I'm looking at iPhone 8s. You can get one from a Verizon iPhone 8 for $245. If you were to buy that exact same phone from Verizon, you are certainly going to pay a higher premium, and you're going to be locked into a monthly bill most likely.
So I've never used Swappa before. Can I be confident that I'm not going to get a brick mailed to me? Like I'm actually going to get a working good cell phone that they're going to cover if there's any problems?
Well, you can imagine this being just like eBay, except the cell phone that you sell must be in working condition with no cracks on your screen, no broken phones, anything like that. So everything has to be working before you're even allowed to sell it on Swappa. The person that sells these phones has to make sure they meet certain requirements. For instance, it has to be unlocked. You cannot sell a locked phone, which you can do. You can pretty much sell anything on eBay. This is a little bit different. You can have a lot more confidence in the phone that you buy from Swappa. Plus, as a buyer, you're protected by PayPal's policy, which if you get your phone and it's got cracked glass or it's got water damage or it's blocked or something like that, you can send it back and you get a full refund for your money.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, because I purchased unlocked cell phones on eBay, and I've had success doing that. But I'm always waiting for that time that I make that purchase and I've got like a knockoff phone or a locked phone. That is sometimes a challenge in finding unlocked used cell phones. Now, if you want a brand new unlocked phone, you are going to have to pay top dollar sometimes for it. So like you mentioned earlier, Joe, I suggest buying the previous model or 2 models back year after year, as I would buy like 2 or 3 year old iPhones. I get them for $250 or so, and they'd work great for a while for me. But like you said, technology isn't changing as quickly as it used to. There's not that many new features. So if you do buy an iPhone 10, it's going to be great for a long time.
They get so hyped up, like they're the greatest thing ever. And now they don't even look any different anymore. They're pretty much all looking the same. And the thing about buying on Swappa, it's safe because they actually review and approve every single listing before it goes up on their site. So eBay, you just put it up and it's instantly there. They actually look at each one and they actually do what's called ESN checks to make sure that they're unlocked before those go up. And then they also verify everything with the phone through photos from the original owner. So they do a lot of the side work that you would need to do normally when you buy a phone on eBay, ask all kinds of questions, make sure of everything. They're doing all that for you, so you don't really have to worry about it. And then everything goes through PayPal, so you get those buyer protections from PayPal as well.
So after you have this unlocked cell phone, Joe, can you tell us about a cell phone plan that we can get for as low as $7 a month? Yeah. And we're not talking about the Jitterbug plan. If you say the Jitterbug plan, we're going to get one of our 29 listeners to unsubscribe.
So here's what you do. You call your grandparents. You say, I need to get one of them cell phones. What do I do? And they'll key you into the $7 a month I'm on Social Security plan. No, this is actually the cheapest plan that we could find that had, some of the features and things like that would be of benefit is actually from tello.com. That's TELLO.com, and we'll have the link in the description. But you can get a plan through this company, and they actually use Sprint's network, which is now owned by T-Mobile. So you're kind of getting both now. You can get 1 gig of data and 100 minutes of talk time and unlimited text messages for $7 a month. Now that is really cheap.
100 minutes, though. Knowing me, like that wouldn't work for me. I think for my wife, I think she uses the phone like all of 5 minutes for talk time a month, only because I make her talk to me for 5 minutes on the phone a month. I think I'm the last person on earth that likes to actually talk on the phone. Like, I always feel this that I'm always inconveniencing all my friends when I call them. Like they'll text me something, and I'm always multitasking. I don't know why. I always have to get 2 things done.
Every time you're calling me, you're doing like the loudest things. You're like banging dishes, or you're like raking gravel. Like I was
digging a ditch. I was digging a ditch 2 or 3 weeks ago when we were talking about our future plans for these shows. And you're like, what are you doing in the background? I said, dude, I'm digging a ditch. I got to get 2 things done. Like,
why are you digging a ditch?
It's a long story.
Yeah. So with Tello, this is one of those micro carriers, as I call it, but they do allow Wi-Fi calling. And so what's cool about that is, you're talking about how you use a lot of minutes and things like that. If you're home and you're making most of your calls from your house where you have Wi-Fi, you might as well use Wi-Fi calling through something like Google Voice, or you can use, if you have an iPhone, you can use FaceTime, and then it doesn't use any of your minutes. So then you just have that 1 gig of data that you're using outside of your house, and the rest of the time you're using the Wi-Fi from your home.
Yeah, that's a good point. I started using WhatsApp and Line a lot when I was living in Asia, because that's what everybody else used. They don't buy plans with minutes. They only buy data plans. So, yeah, you make a good point there. There are ways around having minutes. Who really needs minutes anymore?
Now, just real quick, if the Sprint network or the T-Mobile network isn't very good where you live, the other really inexpensive plans are from a company called Red Pocket, which actually uses all 4. It's Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, and T-Mobile. And then there's also US Mobile, which uses Verizon and T-Mobile. So those are just some others that you can look for, and we'll put the link in the description. Now, a lot of people are interested in getting unlimited data because they just don't want to have to worry about it. What are some of the best plans for that, Ryan?
I personally would never have an unlimited plan. But if you absolutely need unlimited data for your cell phone, then I suggest Wing Mobile. You can go to wingalpha.com. We're going to put all this in our show notes at budgetbrospodcast.com. And if you choose their unlimited plan, it's $55 a month. But what I like about them is that they are not going to deprioritize your internet throughout that whole month.
I just want to explain what deprioritizing is to people who are listening, because, if you go on the freeway late at night when there's not as many people on the road, you can get your destination pretty quick. But when everybody is going in the same direction, all of a sudden there's a bunch of traffic. So being deprioritized means you're just in regular traffic. But when you're prioritized, like if you're with Verizon and you pay your monthly bill to Verizon every month, it's like you're in the carpool lane and you get to pass by all those cars. And so they deprioritize certain companies. And then depending on what kind of contract these smaller providers, these MVNOs, these mobile virtual network operators have with them, depends on whether you'll get prioritized with their networks or not.
It's kind of like you show up at a buffet right before they're closing. If you're one of these smaller carriers and all the good stuff's taken and you just get the leftovers, that's pretty much what we're talking about. But that's
you get
not
cream corn.
yeah, you get the cream of corn and that weird pudding that nobody ever wants. But
with the skin on it and you peel it off.
But with this company Wing, you get the top quality internet for a very reasonable month-to-month price, and that's the best one that we've found so far. Sometimes this plan, we've seen it as low as $45 a month, so I would continue to check their website to see for different deals and offers.
I would say 99% of people do not need unlimited data unless they don't have Wi-Fi at home. If you don't have Wi-Fi at home, you're probably going to want to get a higher data plan. A lot of these plans actually will offer 25 gigs, 50 gigs, large amounts of data, just not unlimited. And most of these plans also, they'll give you a certain number of gigs, but that's at LTE speed. That's at the highest speed. But then after you use that data for that month, it'll lower you to a 2G speed. So you'll just have slower internet. But we want to talk about our recommendation for just about everybody for cell phone service. Can you tell us what that is, Ryan?
So this is the one that I particularly use. It's a company that I've been with for about 6 months now, and it's been great. And this is Mint Mobile. You're probably seeing commercials everywhere now for Mint Mobile. They're putting a lot into advertising recently. But honestly, if you search online what's the best prepaid carrier to use, most often it's going to point you to Mint Mobile. And what I like about them is they offer 3 main plans. You get a 3 gig plan for $15 a month, an 8 gig plan for $20, and a 12 gig for $25. Now, if you go over to mintmobile.com there, Joe, you can see that what they want to do is bulk pricing. So they'll start you off with a 3-month intro plan so that you can use the service to see if you like it, if it works good for you. And that's what my wife and I did. We went with the 3 gig for $15 a month. And at renewal, that would be $25 a month unless you buy it for the entire year. So what I ended up doing is I actually went a little over my 3 gig. That's when I was driving back and forth out of town. So I purchased the 8 gig plan for the entire year for only $240. So I think I saved about $500 if I was one of those average $70 per month cell phone plan users.
That's crazy because I'm paying, it's my wife and I on a plan and we're paying about $150. So I'm paying for myself about $75 a month. So this is a much better deal. In fact, for $15 a month getting cell phone service, it just sounded unreal at first. But the more research I did, the more I understood that this is one of the best companies to go with. And a lot of people will know it because it's owned by Ryan Reynolds. And he's like the spokesman too. And he does all kinds of commercials and stuff. And one thing I really like about this company, they do just a few things extra for people. Like, for instance, you get free calling to Mexico and Canada. A lot of these other carriers don't offer that. You get a free SIM card with the service, and a lot of the fees and stuff that you normally get with some of these MVNOs are actually just a little bit less with Mint, and their pricing is just so upfront and straightforward.
Now, you can purchase cell phones directly from Mint Mobile. Like, you could buy a brand new iPhone X for $600, or if you wanted the 11 Pro, it'd be $1,000. But like we said earlier, that's not going to save you money in the long run. Use some of these other ways that we've talked about to bring a cell phone over to them. And before you bring your cell phone over to them, you want to make sure that you have the right type of cell phone. There's either a GSM or a CDMA phone. So you want to make sure that when you bring a phone over, if you're going to switch to Mint Mobile, it has to be a GSM compatible device. And I believe that most AT&T phones are on the GSM network, whereas Verizon uses the CDMA network. And if you had an old Verizon phone, it wouldn't work with Mint Mobile.
And you can just actually go to their website, click phones, bring your own phone, and you can actually dial *#06# from your phone, and it'll give you your IMEI number that you can plug in there, and it'll check to see if it's compatible with Mint Mobile. It's going to be important for you to check and see if service is good in your area. So our recommendation is to get one of their 3-month plans, see if service is good in your area, and then buy one of the larger bulk plans. Well, the time has come. It's time for our money-saving tip of the week.
So thus far, every single week in our podcast, I like to give our listeners a money-saving tip of the week. Well, our money-saving tip is actually a money-saving gift this week. In fact, Joe spent his time creating something very special for our listeners. Joe, can you tell everybody what you're going to give them this week?
Yes, I'm a little bit of a spreadsheet nerd, and I created a spreadsheet that I think is super simple. And so if you have a current cell phone plan with a major carrier, you can actually plug in your monthly cell phone bill price, how many users are on your plan, whether you owe money on your phone and how much in monthly credits you're getting from your current carrier. You can actually see how much in dollars and cents you can save by switching to Mint Mobile. For instance, I did this on myself. Now, I own my phone and my wife owes money on her phone. Even if we were to completely pay off her phone in cash right now and switch to Mint Mobile, I would actually break even in 4 months.
Oh, wow.
After 12 months, I will save $543. And after 2 years, I'll save over $1,400.
Well, that's a substantial savings. It's funny because you had emailed me that little spreadsheet. I didn't see it, and my wife found the email, and she went ahead and ran the numbers for us, and she found out that we were saving about $540 a year ourselves. So
wow.
This is a great little tool. It just takes a minute or two to fill out to see if it's worth switching right now, or maybe in the future it might be worth it for you. But this is definitely something that we encourage everybody to take a look at. Do your own research. Go on some of these different carriers that we mentioned today. Check their service in your area. You can even Google, what is Mint Mobile like and put it whatever your city is there. I know for me personally, this has been a great way to save money every single month.
Yeah, so that's our money-saving tip of the week, and I think it's actually my first money-saving tip of the week here.
Well, I think that we started something new. I have the money-saving tips, and you have the money-saving gifts.
Money-saving gifts, I like that. Well, I really think that, and if anybody has any questions about this, feel free to email us at budgetbrospodcast@gmail.com. I'd be happy to answer any questions about this spreadsheet or any of the information that we talked about during today's show. So you can find out all this information about this spreadsheet and any of our money-saving tips on our website, budgetbrospodcast.com. We also want to ask you to follow us on Twitter at JoeBudget, or you can check us out on Instagram, Facebook, even on TikTok at Budget Bros Podcast.
Yeah, I think you posted something recently on TikTok.
And in fact, today I posted a tip, and we already had 7,239 people listen to it, and 741 people liked it. So I think you're going to enjoy some of those videos, and I'm also posting those videos on our Twitter account, our Facebook account, and our Instagram account. So if you check out any of those, just go to our website, budgetbrospodcast.com, and you can find the links to any of those and follow us on any of those social media platforms.
Thanks a lot for tuning in, and we'll see you again in 7 days. Hey, I stole your line there.
There you go. Do it. You got to say take care at the end.
And we'll see you again in 7 days. Take care.